Welcome back. Safe and sound, the first batch of Nigerian pilgrims for this year's Hajj have arrived the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia safely. This is contained in a statement signed by Principal Assistant Information Officer Nakon Suwaiba Ahmed. The Saudi Arabian flight, flying as touched down at Prince Mohammed Ibn Abdul Aziz International Airport, Medina at 12 a.m. Nigerian time with 422 pilgrims from Kebbi State. Well, Nigerian ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Alhaji Mahmoud Lele Muhammad, and the Consul General, Ambassador Ibrahim Suleidan Agundi, were at the airport to receive them together with Medina Coordinator, Medina Liaison Officer, and some NACON staff. Ambassador Mahmoud Lele called on the pilgrims to be law-abiding citizens and conduct themselves as good ambassadors of Nigeria. The Consul General, Ambassador Suleidan Agundi, urged Nigerian pilgrims to pray for their country and their leaders and also wished them a successful Hajj. At the accommodation, the first batch of the pilgrims for Hajj 2024 were treated to a grand reception by the hotel management. Meanwhile, after the arrival of the first batch of pilgrims from Kebbi State, 2 other flights landed in Medina carrying pilgrims from FCT and Nasarawa State. It will be recorded that Vice President Kashim Shettima, who, in company of the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, witnessed the inaugural flight, said the federal government subsidized the 2024 Hajj to the tune of 95 billion naira. Now, the newly sworn-in President of Senegal, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has arrived in Nigeria, marking his first visit to the country. Faye arrived at State House on Thursday to meet President Bola Tinubu. The 44-year-old Senegalese president is expected to discuss ways that both countries can advance their ties and bilateral relations. And to some education matters, averting another strike, the acting executive secretary of the National Universities Commission, Chris Meyaki, has explained that the federal government was working to reconstitute the governing councils of universities. He said the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, had already put in place a panel to work on the list. The executive secretary was addressing journalists in Abuja in reaction to the threat by the Academic Staff Union of Universities to embark on another industrial action to get the federal government to expedite action on establishing the governing councils of federal universities in Nigeria. Pleading with the ASU members to shelve the strike, he said the councils would be inaugurated once the list was consummated. ASU had on Tuesday given the government a 2-week ultimatum to reconstitute the governing councils of federal universities. Let's talk business. Nigeria's newly constructed Dangote refinery, Lagos, is seeking to purchase millions of barrels of U.S. crude oil over next year as it ramps up processing rate. Reports say the plant has issued a term tender for the purchase of 2 million barrels a month of West Texas Intermediate Midland crude for 12 months starting in July. In April, Nigerian media reported that the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote Petroleum Refinery is taking advantage of cheaper oil import from the United States. An earlier report on April the 18th stated that the plant has been shipping product in weeks while readying 2 units to enable petrol output that will deliver a long-promised transformation of the fuel market both in Nigeria and the region. And now to travel matters, where the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, alongside the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunjiojo, have unveiled the new office dedicated to the processing of advanced passenger information and passenger name record. Mr. Keyamo disclosed this in a post on X on Thursday, stating that it was a significant step towards enhanced border security and facilitating legitimate travel. He added that this development was a product of effective collaboration between government agencies and the private sector. Earlier in May, the minister unveiled plans to review agreements Nigeria had entered into with some nations. Now let's bring you updates with others still receiving medical treatment at the hospital. The police had already arrested a suspect, Shafiu Abubakar, who's 38, who had confessed that his actions were in revenge over a disputed inheritance, claiming he had been cheated. A resident of the village, Rabiu Gaddan, confirmed to journalists that 11 people have so far died due to the injuries they sustained, adding that the funeral of 8 of them had already been conducted while the corpses of the remaining 3 were being prepared for burial on Thursday. Gaddan alleged that the attack was not Abubakar's first violent outburst, as he had previously assaulted 2 of his elder brothers and then surrendered them to the police, claiming he had killed them. The command's public relations officer, SP Abdullahi Haruna, confirmed mosque area was patrol before locking the door and setting the mosque ablaze. The principal suspect is currently in police custody, assisting them in the ongoing investigation. Still on crime, the Plateau State Police Command has paraded a suspected suicide bomber, Benjamin Basil, who entered a branch of a commercial bank in Dadinkowa community of Jos South local government area of the state with a fake improvised explosive device, IED, and threatening to detonate it if he was not given 100 million naira. Parading the suspect at the headquarters of the State Police Command, the police commissioner said the suspect was arrested following a report by the manager of the bank to Rantia Police Division. Jamila Haruna Garga completes the report.
This is the suspect, Benjamin Basil, almost lynched by an angry mob on Monday when he was nabbed at the bank after claiming to have been strapped with an EID. He had threatened to detonate the device if he was not given the sum of 100 million naira. It took the intervention of the police to rescue him from the mob. The suspect entered the bank when staff members were attending to customers with 2 blacks. Said the case is now under investigation.
This call was received from the bank that a young man, suspected bomber, entered into the banking hall. When he entered, he moved straight to the office of the cashier and made demands. As he was doing this, the bank manager was alerted. And when the bank manager was alerted, he quickly also put get across to the security agencies. The men from the divisions from Rantia were also alerted. The victim, the suspect, he sensed danger and started panicking. After it was done on him that security men have arrived in the premises, he took to his heels.
The suspect, Benjamin Basil, upon interrogation said he was forced into the act by suspected kidnappers who abducted him earlier in the day.
There were 6 men in the bus. No, around Police Staff College. They forced me to enter the bus. They pointed a gun at me. Then when I entered the bus, they told me to raise up my shirt. I asked why would I raise up my shirt. Then the guy at the back cocked his gun and said that if I don't do it, that he will kill me. So I did it because in our area there was an incident where a man got shot and his daughter got kidnapped. And the man screamed, he called for alarm, but nobody helped him. And I wasn't willing to risk my life at that point. So I entered the bus. Then after they wrapped it on me, they told me that it's a suicide bomb. I was very surprised. Then they told me that they will take me to somewhere. I asked, where are you taking me? They said they will take me to a bank. Then they gave me 2 bags. As they gave me the bag, they told me that I would go inside the bank and collect 100 million naira. That 12 of their men are waiting outside. That was what they told me. Then I told them that, okay, they say if I do anything suspicious or try to raise alarm, that they will explode me and kill everyone in the bank. That they have eyes inside the bank and outside the bank watching me.
The situation in the area had caused panic with many running for safety. Jamila Haruna Garga, P&B TV News Jos.
Thank you, Jamila, for that report. And now moving to insecurity, where about 47 individuals associated with Boko Haram and the Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP, have surrendered to troops of 403 Amphibious Brigade of Multinational Joint Task Force, MNJTF, Sector 3, Nigeria. This was made known by the Chief Military Public Information Officer of the brigade, Lieutenant Colonel Abubakar Abdullahi, in a statement on Thursday in Maiduguri. Abdullahi said the group included 7 men, 9 women, and 31 children. He said the terrorist families. Those who surrendered include Malam Muazu Adamu, a known fighter within the Jama'atu al-Sunnah Lida'awa wal Jihad faction. Do you remember Evans, the kidnapped kingpin who was convicted, charged with murder and attempted kidnap? He has opted for a plea bargain. The news agency of Nigeria reports that the state-led counsel, Mr. Yusuf Sule, informed the court about the plea bargain option on Thursday when the case was called for rearrangement before Justice Adenike Kokers of Anikeja High Court. Now reports that Evans and his co-defendant were to be rearranged on an amended 5-count charge bordering on murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit felony through kidnapping. The counsel, who informed the court that the case was for rearrangement, admitted being aware that the defendants have applied for plea bargain, adding that the terms were being considered by the Attorney General of Lagos State, Mr. Lawal Pedro SAN. And now food matters. The House of Representatives has called on the federal government to suspend the introduction of genetically modified crops into the country pending the conclusion of a comprehensive investigation. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of a motion on the floor of the House on Thursday, moved by Representative Mukhtar Shagaya of the Ilorin West, Asha Federal Constituency, Kwara State. Genetically modified crops are plants whose DNA has been altered using genetic engineering methods and used for agricultural purposes. Leading the debate on the need to investigate the introduction of genetically modified crops in Nigeria, Shagaya said the recent introduction of GM crops in Nigeria has raised serious questions about the safety, regulatory oversight, and the potential impact on the country's biosafety and ecosystem. Away from Nigeria now to the foreign scene, where a man has been charged with the attempted murder of Slovak Prime Minister Roberto Fico after the politician was seriously hurt in a shooting attack. The alleged assailant has not been formally named, but Slovak reports have widely identified him as a 71-year-old from the town of Levis. Reports say he could face up to a life sentence in prison. Mr. Fico, who's 59, is in a serious but stable condition after being shot several times in what colleagues described as a politically motivated attack. Interior Minister Matu Sutaj Etsko told the news conference on Thursday that the suspect had acted alone and that he had previously taken part in anti-government protests. We head on now to South Africa, where it has once again dragged Israel back to International Criminal Court. South Africa told the United Nations top court on Thursday the situation in Gaza had reached a new and horrific stage as it sought emergency measures to halt Israel's military operation in the enclave's southern city of Rafah. It was the third time the International Court of Justice held hearings on the conflict in Gaza since South Africa filed proceedings at the Hague-based court in December, accusing Israel of genocide. During hearings earlier this year, Israel strongly denied committing genocide in Gaza, saying it does all it can to spare civilians and is only targeting Hamas militants, alleging that Rafah is the last stronghold of the militant group. South Africa argues that the military operation has far surpassed justified self-defense. It was Rafah that brought South Africa to the court, but it is all Palestinians as a national, ethnical and racial group who need the protection from the genocide that a court can order, lawyer Vaughan Lowe said. According to the latest request, the previous preliminary orders by the Hague-based court were not sufficient to address a brutal military attack on the sole remaining refuge for the people of Gaza. Israel will be allowed to answer the accusations on Friday. Still on the foreign scene, fighting around the city of Kharkiv, which has seen Russia make its largest territorial gains in Ukraine in 18 months, has been described as very difficult but under control by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine's president made the remarks while speaking to military leaders in the northeastern city on Thursday, just 18 miles from the Russian border. Moscow launched a major ground assault across the border into the Kharkiv region last week. The surprise move has further stretched Ukraine's outgunned and outnumbered forces. Writing on Telegram, Mr. Zelensky said Ukrainian soldiers were inflicting significant losses on the occupier. According to analysis by news agency AFP, Moscow seized 278 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory between 9th and 15th of May. Figures are based on data from the Institute for the Study of War. This has been the largest territorial gain by Russia in a single operation since mid-December 2022. Earlier, Ukraine's army said it had managed to reduce advancing Russian forces in some places. From the foreign scene now, let's talk sports. As the Nigerian National League (NNL) on Wednesday conducted draws for the Super 8 Championship to be held at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium, Enugu from June 7th to June 14th, 2024. Well, as head coach of the Bafana of South Africa, Hugo Bruce has unveiled his provisional list for the games. The Bafana will be the guest of Nigeria's Super Eagles in the match on day 3 before hosting the Warriors of Zimbabwe on day 4. Rilwan Musagau takes us around the world of sports.
The 8 teams that qualified for the Super 8 include Nasarawa United, Sporting Supreme of Abuja, Sokoto United and El Kanemi Warriors. Others are Beyond Limit Football Club, Madiba Football Club, Inter Lagos and Ikorodu City Football Club. The draws are scheduled for 2 conferences, NNL Northern Conference, which is scheduled to start on the 8th of June and finish on the 11th, while the Southern Conference also starts same day, 8th of June to 11th of June 2024, with different timing and location of the matches. Meanwhile, we shift gear to Abia Warriors as on Wednesday compounded the woes of Rivers United in the rescheduled game played in Umuahia. The pride of Rivers has been having a difficult time recently and has yet to record a win in the last 4 outings. Playing at the Umuahia Township Stadium, the away side stood their ground to ensure that the first half ended in a goalless draw, but Abia Warriors proved to be better side in the second half as Samson Obi opened the scoring in the 64th minute, with Meme Mike wrapping up the game with a late goal in the second half as he handed the host a comfortable 2-0 win and maximum points. Ahead of the match day 3 and 4 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying game, the head coach of the Bafana of South Africa, Hugo Bruce, has unveiled his provisional list for the game. The Bafana will be guest of the Nigerian Super Eagles in the match day on day 3 before hosting the Warriors of Zambia on day 4. The German gaffer on Wednesday morning called up 36 players that will commence the preparation for the match. Meanwhile, the game against Nigeria is scheduled to take place on the 7th of June at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo. And now to Europe, where in tennis and the more progress to the second round of an ATP Challenger event in Bordeaux after opponent Karen Jacquet retired at the start of the second set. And now to the English Premier League, where clubs will vote on whether to scrap video assistant referee VAR from next season at their annual general meeting next month. Wolverhampton have formally submitted a resolution to the English Premier League which will trigger a vote when the 20-member clubs meet in Harrogate on the 6th of June 2024. The club said VAR was introduced in good faith but has led to numerous unintended negative consequences that are damaging the relationship between fans and football. VAR was introduced in 2019 to help support on-field officials with key match decisions, but there have been a number of controversial incidents involving technology this season. And lastly, Juventus won their first major trophy in 3 years as they beat Atlanta 1-0 to lift a record-extending 15th Coppa d'Italia. Dusan Vlahovic scored the only goal in Romero Stadio Olympic after just 4 minutes when he received Andre Cambiaso's pass before finishing finishing from 12-yard out. And that's all on sport news. Over to Omoefe Peace or Semere for the full bulletin.
Rilwan Musa there with a sports update, and now weather report. Right, that brings us to the end of the news tonight. But just before I go, a recap of the news. You heard that the first batch of Nigerian pilgrims have arrived Saudi safely. This consists of 422 pilgrims from Kebbi State. The Senegalese President Diomaye Faye is visiting